People say childhood promises fade like chalk in the rain, but the moment she stood in front of me again, eyes trembling, voice breaking as she whispered, "You promised to marry me when I grew up," I realized some promises don't fade. Some wait. Some haunt. And some demand an answer. I still remember that summer, the kind where afternoons smelled like sun-warmed grass and our bare feet slapped against the river stones as we ran. I was 17, old enough to think I understood everything, and she was 10, a tiny whirlwind with tangled hair, scraped knees, and a stubborn spirit that could have moved mountains if she glared at them long enough. Her name was Mira. She followed me everywhere, asking questions I didn't know how to answer and making me laugh at moments I didn't want to smile. One evening, while fireflies blinked lazily over the field behind her grandmother's house, she held out a wildflower ring she had woven herself. "When I grow up," she said proudly, "I'm going to marry you." Her expression was so serious, so certain, that I laughed gently, I thought, patting her head. "Sure," I told her. "When you grow up." I said it the way older boys say things to keep younger kids happy, believing the world would make her forget me, just as I would surely move on to bigger things. Life did move on. I left for college, her grandmother passed, her family moved away, and the seasons replaced each other so fast I barely noticed a decade slipping by. I thought she'd forget me, the way children forget their misplaced toys and imaginary friends. I thought the promise would stay buried in that summer. I was wrong. It happened on an ordinary afternoon. I was at a cafe near my workplace, typing half-heartedly on my laptop, drowning in deadlines and the dullness of adult life. The bell above the door chimed, and someone stepped in, someone who seemed to carry sunlight with her. When she turned, our eyes met, and something inside me jolted. "Mira?" I whispered before I could stop myself. She smiled, and it was the same smile she had as a child, bright, unfiltered, slightly mischievous. But the girl I remembered was gone. In her place stood a young woman, graceful, confident, undeniably beautiful, but beneath all of that, her eyes held a storm of emotions I didn't understand. "I've been looking for you," she said softly. We sat together, and she told me about her life, her college studies, her dreams of becoming a teacher, the challenges she'd faced after her grandmother's passing. She spoke with warmth and strength, but beneath her words was something else, something heavier. Then she set down her cup, inhaled sharply, and said the words that shattered the air between us, "You promised to marry me when I grew up." The cafe seemed to pause. My heartbeat quickened. My throat tightened. "Mira," I forced a laugh, but it cracked. "You were a kid. I thought you'd forget." Her smile trembled. "I never forgot. Not the promise, not you. You were the first person who ever made me feel safe. You were the one who told me dreams mattered. And I held on to that when everything else felt like it was falling apart." Guilt hit me like a tidal wave. I hadn't known. How could I have known? She was just a child back then. I'd never imagined my careless words could carve themselves into someone's heart so deeply. She stood abruptly, blinking back tears. "I shouldn't have come. I don't want you to feel guilty. I just needed to know why you never came back." Before I could respond, she left, her steps quick, almost desperate, and I was left staring at the door she disappeared through, wondering how one small promise could grow into something so huge, so fragile, and so painfully real. That night, sleep refused to come. Memories kept flooding back, her tiny hand gripping mine, her laughter echoing across the fields, the wildflower ring she made with trembling fingers. And her voice, older now, heavier with hurt, repeating, "You promised." For the first time in years, I realized I had to face what I had run from, not Mira, but my younger self. The boy who never understood the weight of his own words, and I knew I needed to make things right. And no matter how long it had been, and the next morning, I searched for her. Not online, not through messages, something about this demanded more than the distance of screens. I checked the areas she might visit, the park near the cafe, the bookstore she mentioned, even the old neighborhood where her grandmother once lived. And nothing. Just when I thought I'd lost any chance of finding her, I saw her standing at the edge of the river, the same river where we played as kids, sunlight glinting off the water and wind tugging at her hair. Her arms were wrapped around herself, and she stared at the river like she was waiting for the past to speak. I walked toward her slowly. She didn't turn, but her voice came softly, "I'm sorry for yesterday." "No," I said gently. "I'm the one who's sorry." She finally looked at me, eyes red but clearing. "You don't owe me anything. I owe you the truth." She hesitated, but didn't speak. I exhaled, letting the words come raw and honest. "You were a child, Mira. I didn't understand what my promise meant. I thought you'd forget, because forgetting is what I did. I grew up, and life became noisy, messy, overwhelming. But yesterday, when you said those words, I realized something. Her eyes lifted slightly. Realized what? That you remembered the best parts of me. The parts one let go of. I swallowed. And that has value. You have value. More than you know. She looked away, tears glinting again. That doesn't mean you love me. I don't know what I feel yet, I admitted honestly. But I want to. She stiffened in surprise. I want to know you, not the little girl I once knew, but the woman you became. I want to know your dreams, your fears, your favorite songs, the things that make you laugh now. I want to start over, if you'll let me. Silence stretched between us, carried by the wind. She held her breath, her fingers trembling slightly. You're not saying this out of guilt, she asked quietly. I shook my head. No. I'm saying this because yesterday when you walked away, it felt like I was losing something I never realized I needed. Not a promise. Not the past. You. Her breath caught, slowly, so slowly, she stepped closer. Then what do we do now? I smiled, feeling something warm unfurl inside me. We start with a new promise. One I actually understand. She wiped her eyes, almost laughing through her tears. And what's that? That I won't run from you anymore. That I'll be here, not as someone who made a careless promise long ago, but as someone who wants to build something real, something that belongs to both of us. She stared at me for a long, searching moment. Then she reached out and took my hand, the same way she did years ago, but this time her grip was steady, intentional. I'd like that, she whispered. We spent the rest of the afternoon walking along the river, talking about everything and nothing. She laughed again, really laughed, and it felt like hearing a forgotten melody return. She told me about the hard years after losing her grandmother, about the loneliness she hid behind her smiles, and the way she clung to the promise not because she expected it to come true, but because it reminded her that once, someone believed in her, and as she spoke, I felt something shift inside me. Not obligation. Not guilt. Something gentle. Something warm. Something that made me want to protect her, know her, stay beside her, not because of the past, but because of the possibility of a shared future. When the sun dipped low and the sky blazed orange, she turned to me and said softly, "Do you think we'll ever fall in love for real?" I squeezed her hand. I think, I said, we already started. In that moment, watching the sunlight catch in her eyes, I realized promises don't shape the future, choices do. And my choice, from that day on, was her, not because of a childhood vow, not because of guilt, but because some people return to your life not to remind you of what you owe, but to show you who you're still meant to become, and she was that person for me.